Hello good people, welcome back to this channel and thank you for the feedback that you have given me from the time I did the introductory video. I've received many compliments, I've received many inboxes, and I've received many questions pertaining spirituality. As much as I didn't want to dwell much in that element because I know as time goes on, everything will fall into place. Maybe today I can be able to clear a misconception I captured in the comments pertaining spirituality, and I'll do it by maybe explaining or defining what religion is. Religion is a set of organized practices, beliefs, or attitudes that govern a group, a society. It is by means at which people connect with the divine or the sacred. So in a way, it is a social or public way, but spirituality is more personal, it is more private, and it is a direct way at which a person connects with God. Personally, being a practicing psychological counselor, I am very non-judgmental pertaining people's faiths and beliefs, and that is why I'm very cautious in elaborating issues concerning spirituality, because in a way there are people who may feel like I'm biased or something, but I will say I will be integrating spirituality with psychology if you don't believe like me, because personally I subscribe and ascribe to Christianity as a religion. You pick the psychological part, you integrate it with the tools and the techniques of your worship, and I know ultimately it will still have positive effect to your mental health. When I started this series, I said I'll be tackling different topics. Example, marriage, sexuality, issues with masturbation, issues with teenage or parenting. And since I am a Christian, I will be using the Bible, which is a sacred book, and also it is the word of God. It is a manual to us Christians to be able to elaborate in issues pertaining life, and we'll be able to decode life together. I know psychology is a field by itself and it explains many issues broadly, but the reason I'll be bringing the word of God on board is because it will be giving us a backup, because I can tell you for sure you can never go wrong by following the word of God. But at the same time, you cannot follow the word of God blindly. Hiyo ndio imefanya there are no much results in people's beliefs. People believe, but hawafuati the word of God, because as I have been studying the Bible, I've realized God is full of wisdom, he's full of knowledge, na huwa hatuachi hanging in issues pertaining life. But people want to live blindly, not, in fact, it is the word of God that says people perish for the lack of knowledge. And the word of God is knowledge, and psychology is knowledge by itself. I will start from the basic foundation of humanity, and that is from the time a person is born in their mother's womb. And the reason I'll be going this dimension is because I've realized many people go through a lot of distress and dysfunctionality, partly because they have unfinished businesses of the past. The many things we see people going through, or the many things that people have brought into the counseling sessions, I've realized they are presenting issues. We say presenting issues are like a tip of an iceberg, but beneath the tip of an iceberg, there is a lot of issues zenye when they are not explored, this presenting issue never goes away. Na ndio sababu I said I'll start from the basic foundation, and that is I'll give that topic nature and nurture. I'll explain what it is and how it influences us, our well-being, and what we turn out to be. As a believer, I will say, before we were formed in our mother's womb, that is in the word of God, God knew us. But in psychology, life starts from conception. And with that, I'll explain what nature is and how it influences us. Nature refers to a range of traits, capacities, limitations that a person genetically acquires from both parents from the time of conception. Physically, it may be body type, it may be eye color, and may be inherited diseases. Psychologically, it may be a host of intellectual capacities, example, facility with numbers, it may be sociability, it may be novelty, and on the negative, sometimes it is the tendency to depression. And all these are highly influenced by genes. This means when we are born, there is what God wanted us to be. There is the strength, the divine destiny that is in us. But if nature comes like a negativity in our lives, it may hinder what we will become. With that, I'll explain what nature is so that I can be able to bring the interplay of how it influences our well-being. Nature is the environmental conditions that a human being comes into play with right from our mother's womb. The diet the mother is taking, and in fact, that has brought me to think about, in the book of Judges, we see a scenario where God gave specific instructions to Samson's mother that when she conceived him, she should not take, yani asikunywe vileo. Ni kwa sababu what we take from our mother's womb can influence who we become in the future, either positively or negatively. Again, outside the mother's womb, it is the environmental conditions starts from family setup, the school, the society at large, na pia cultural setup. All these things influence who we become, and we cannot overlook, we cannot rule out this nature and nurture in who we become. The first 5 years of a person's life provide the basic structure of a person's personality structure for the future, and that is why I said the nature and the nurture will influence who we become, because it comes into play from the time we were born, nani developmental. In fact, a person develops until the time they die. And in conclusion, because I know we'll be exploring more and more concerning this issue, I will say the many distresses that you see people going through, sometimes they are unconscious, sometimes they are cautious, and that's why I would say psychological counseling is very important, because it helps you to explore your past, and you're able to come to terms to some things maybe you are replacing ama huku umezijua. And when you come to know about these issues, you're able to explore them and find a solution. And the reason we bring God on board is because mambo zingine that people have gone through in the past, they are deep, sometimes they are wounds, sometimes they are traumas. Yes, psychology helps to process, but zingine, example a nature, if example one have an inherited disease, which will become as a hindrance to their destiny, who can solve that? It is only God. And when we talked about nature, we saw that inherited diseases is part of nature, lakini we can bring it to God in prayers, and God is able to change situations. And that's why I said you cannot pick psychology na useme you'll become what God wanted you to be without bringing in spirituality, because you can find things that psychology don't have a solution, but with God all things are possible. We will continue to explore more on this and many other topics, but for the time being, goodbye. Subscribe, share, inform a friend, and we will pick the conversation from there.